Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the Boiler Room. We're broadcasting live from alternatecurrentradio.com, Spreaker.com, YouTube.com, and Rockfin. What's going on, Rockfin? Good to see everybody out there tonight. We got a chat room rolling over in the Alternate Current Radio Discord. So do check out our Discord. If you haven't yet, we've got a flourishing community of discorders over there, so we'd love to have you join us. Let me open the Boiler Room over here on Rockfin. Make sure it's muted so I don't double up. All right, there we go. Monitoring Rockfin, monitoring YouTube, monitoring StreamYard. Welcome, everybody. Welcome. It's great to see everyone. What can I say? Lots going on. We're just going to jump right into it. There's too much going on for me to canoodle around. Let me open the room up here and say hello to the one and only, the Wandering Wolf, Mr. Corey Drayton. Welcome back to the Boiler Room. How you doing tonight?
Hello. Good to be back in the Boiler Room. I've been looking forward to this one. I missed you guys, so just ready to rock and roll, have some fun.
All right. Yes, definitely. Ready to rock and roll, ready to have some fun. That's the Wandering Wolf, everybody. I like the background there, Wandering Wolf. That's very Boiler Room appropriate. Looking good, man.
Well, I couldn't find one of downtown Portland, but I figured this was close enough.
It is. Yeah, it is. I'm getting the feels. I'm getting the Portland feels there. All right. That's Wandering Wolf, everybody. If you have not checked him out on my new show on TNT, Today's News Talk, get on over there and check it out. And we've been doing a lot of collaborations with TNT over here. You may have noticed. If you haven't noticed, you need to take notice, because there's a lot of your favorite alternate current radio personalities showing up over there at TNT. All right, let's welcome the one and only, the man behind the Daily Ruckus, and the man that you will also find on Joseph Arthur's Technicolor Dreamcast in the final hour, Monday through Friday at TNT. His call sign is Ruckus. There's a ruckus among us, everyone. Ruckus, what's up, dude? Welcome to the show.
Howdy. Although, thanks to the TNT thing, I guess it's now officially Adam Ruckus Clark. So
I know, man. I didn't really think about how that was going to come across audibly when I wrote all of our stuff out. You know, it was like whenever you read someone with a nickname, it always seems appropriate to stick it in the middle. But now I'm having to get used to hearing it go, Brian Hesher McLean and Adam Ruckus Clark. There's a new cadence to our names that I'm still kind of getting used to. I'm also kind of getting used to just having my full name out there and saying my name over and over again. It's really strange to have been broadcasting so much, tens of thousands of hours for the last 8 years here. By the way, again, if you missed that, everybody, Alternate Current Radio just turned 8 years old last week. So boom, a little bit of an anniversary there. But I remember back in the beginning, Ruckus, took me a while to get used to hearing myself say my call sign over and over again, and then it became second nature. So I guess that's what's going to happen to us when we get used to this, I guess.
Yeah, no, everything is flip-flop backwards. Like we're moving forwards to the past or something. Everything is just strange days. But that's why we do what we do, and what we're probably going to be doing tonight, because things have gotten very strange indeed, right?
Yes, they have. Yes, they do. And yes, they will continue to do so. And that's why we're here in the Boiler Room, trying to help ourselves and our viewers and our listeners learn to protect themselves from predatory mass media cartels. And we always kick this off with an icebreaker from the one and only, the very lovely, the curator of all things what the actual fuck on the internet, lovely Spore. How you doing? Welcome to the Boiler Room.
Hey, I'm doing excellent. Really happy to be here. Before we bust into the icebreaker, I just want to say that we had a chance to go to Oklahoma last weekend. I want to give a shout out to everybody out there in Oklahoma. What an amazing state. I've never been there before. It's lush. It's beautiful. It's full of really cool people that I think are rejects like us. So it was really neat to go there. So I just want to shout out the OK state.
All right. Yeah. Don't tell everybody, Spore. It'll end up like Texas. Everyone will follow us if we decide to go there.
It's not as cool as Texas until we get there.
That is true. True that. True that. All right, Spore. Well, shall we get into it?
Yeah, let's do it.
What are we going to break the ice with tonight?
Well, again, there was a lot to choose from this week. Thank you, everybody that has submitted icebreakers into our Discord channel for icebreaker suggestions. Really good stuff in there. But there was something that Hesher happenstance, like right before the show started. And it just kind of like, I don't know, it took me kind of like back a bit. And I was like, let's do this. Let's do this one. So you have a clip for it. So just play the clip.
I do indeed. Here you go.
Prosecutors in Orange County are trying to determine if they're going to charge an Irvine dermatologist for allegedly poisoning her husband. Police arrested Dr. Emily Yu after her husband videotaped her pouring Drano into his drinks. Detectives say Dr. Jack Chen became suspicious after getting sick with unexplainable symptoms for more than a month. After receiving a diagnosis, Dr. Chen tried to figure what was poisoning him. He set up a camera and videotaped his wife spiking his hot teas with household chemicals.
Dr. Yu gets up, goes under the counter, gets the Drano from under the sink, peels back the saran wrap, pours in a little dollop, mixes it up, puts the saran wrap back, and puts the Drano back under the counter, and goes back to the table to finish her breakfast.
The couple has been married for 10 years and has kids aged 7 and 8. Dr. Chen has filed for divorce and has a restraining order against his wife. Dr. Yu is out on a $30,000 bail due in court next week. Dr. Chen suffered from internal injuries and is now recovering.
$30,000 bail, out on a $30,000 bail. My goodness. That's nuts. Ouch.
I felt like when I heard this, it felt like old news, like news of the pre 2020 days where, like, you know, people were just, there was a certain number of creeps out there that were doing creepy things and they get caught. Like, do you remember that movie Heathers? Have you all seen that one? Yeah, where in that girl poisoned the other cheerleader or whatever with something in the kitchen. It was something like Drano, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I can't, I don't know. I'm like still surprised that this sort of stuff is actually hitting the news. And what the hell?
Yeah.
Like, the slow poisoning, it's not even like just one and done. Like, I'm just going to keep making him feel sick.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
To the point where he's going to be like recording what's going on in the kitchen. And I don't know, it just kind of took me back. What do you guys think?
Yeah, that's freaky. I mean, plus they have a 7 and a 10-year-old. You're going to do this to the father of your kids? Is there something more going on here? Is that not the real father to those kids or something? I mean, what is with this?
And she's a doctor, right?
They both were, it sounded like.
We're doctors. Trust the medical community.
Yeah, what kind of doctor is she? Someone should check in on her patients and make sure they're okay. If she's putting I love how this lawyer's like, she puts a dollop in. I'm like, a dollop? She put a dollop of honey into things, not a dollop of Drano. Gnarly. Ruckus, what do you make of this one, man?
Fake news.
You think?
No, I'm kidding.
It's fake
Get
news.
your face, though, Spore. Wow, she's like, really? Well, here's the problem. There is a problem, actually, folks. Because you now have two doctors and the media and the authorities all basically validating the concept or idea that a poison, a chemical, a toxin can make you sick with unknown symptoms. I imagine if this were to take place, not that long ago, in the last 2 weeks to slow the spread, they might have misdiagnosed that doctor as having some sort of virus disease because he was showing some sort of symptoms. So I think this type of story dangerously, stands to expose the atrocities of the lies that have been perpetrated over the last couple years, which makes it not so lighthearted of an icebreaker. So I guess I'll just have to say that, wow, this is just there. This is one of those things, Hesher. You talk about this all the time. We don't know things. There's something missing. The context is why somebody would do this. So when you see this type of thing happen on like an episode of Forensic Files or one of those type of dramatized true crime series, because this type of stuff happens all the time, you know what I mean? But usually we don't get to see the news clips because it happens so rarely, you know what I mean? But it does happen, and there are actual psychopaths out there, and I don't know what's going on through that lady's head, but that's probably the real story because, since she's a doctor, there's a good chance that she herself is on some sort of weird, wacky medications. And so you never know. Her actions might actually be directly tied to, again, something that's not so mainstream friendly as far as quote unquote the science is concerned in the current atmosphere we live in. So, but very interesting stuff. I mean, what's next? We're going to hear about the people running over the exes with their cars, people, attacking each other with golf clubs. And, here we are back to normal, I guess. It's a sign of the times.
Yeah. Oh boy. Wondering, well, if only we could get like into the old days of like 2017 when you get people on bath salts, chewing people's ears off on the street. Florida man on bath salts chews someone's ear off under a bridge in Tampa, that kind of stuff. Ruckus has a point there, though. I mean, if this had happened 2 years ago, or think of maybe similar things that happened 2 years ago, and someone went in with symptoms and got a weird PCR positive test, they might have just taken that person and thrown them on a ventilator and said good luck, I mean, and it could have been I wonder how many misdiagnoses there were that led to ventilators back then. It's a little bit of a side street, but
Yeah, it's interesting that on the one hand you sort of have this situation where looking at a story like this, it does, even though it's horrifying, bringing us back to the sort of pre-2020 news. There was almost a moment where I got a breath of fresh air because it just seemed so odd and yet mundane at the same time. It was like, wow, what an interesting break from the way things have been, certainly of late. At the same time, Ruckus brings up a really great point about, what psychotropic drugs is she on? I don't remember the exact statistics, but I know that the degree to which people are on SSRIs in the United States is massive. I mean, certainly it's above, I want to say 65-70%. So you almost have this meta combination really of different kinds of drugs. You've got maybe possibly psychotropic drugs that she's on, as well as her drugging her husband. And then it's also interesting to think that, like, as you say, someone walking into a hospital with symptoms in 2017, the battery of tests to determine the problem, I think likely would have started from a much different place than they would now, in an era where so many people are rocking up to hospital with, all sorts of odd symptoms that are assumed to be associated with a certain injection. So the goalposts and the baselines for diagnosing medical problems are completely different now than they were 2 years ago. This is an interesting one. This is a really strange story, and I do wonder, when I hear about things like this happening, what are the internal dynamics of that family? What are the internal dynamics between the husband and the wife? What happened in their marriage that drove her to think that this was the thing to do, the way to go? And what was the likelihood to begin with that she would be this kind of person who's that prone to a psychotic break? I mean, with people having been locked up for as long as they were, unable to go anywhere, unable to do anything, unable to engage in real time with other human beings, I'm kind of surprised that we aren't hearing about more cases like this one. It's a strange one, interesting story.
Well, yeah, and I think that there's probably a lot more of these stories out there, and I'm a little surprised that this one actually surfaced, because I think there have been a lot of issues within families ever since the lockdown started, ever since the whole COVID thing happened. And there have been, I mean, we've talked about it a lot on our shows, suicides and family breakups and things like that. And they just normally don't hit the news. So I'm kind of curious why this one actually hit the news and we saw it. And then my cousin here, Session Jones, brings up a great question that I was thinking about too. What was her intention? You'd think as a medical professional, she'd know she's not giving enough to kill him. So was she just trying to torture him? Which I think is likely. But like in that case, you would think she would be smart enough to like do it in a way where she's not like obvious in the kitchen. I mean, everybody knows there's cameras everywhere. Like it just is really, I can't put the dots together here on this one.
I figured it out, guys. She wanted to get caught. She's a victim of the sexualization. It's cool and sexy thanks to the Orange is the New Black type of shows and Oz. She wants to move from the doctor life to the prison life. It's a status thing. It's a life choice.
Moving on up.
Yeah.
Right. Got to get that gangster status. Got to get that Orange is the New Black status. It is funny how they've sort of pedestrianized and normalized the women in prison idea. I mean, I remember when I was younger, it was always like these weird exploitation films from the 60s and 70s and stuff. It was this whole genre, but it was more tongue in cheek. It was more TNA. It was more just, but now it's like
heat.
Yeah, exactly. But now there's this whole, like, I don't know. I don't really know how to describe it. It's like this Sons of Anarchy factor applied to women in prison or something like that. I don't know. Wonder Wolf, have you noticed this? I mean, you're in the Hollywood realm. What's the deal with the women in prison series? There's an Aussie one too, Wentworth, that's sort of like the Australian version of Orange is the New Black. And I don't know. I guess I remember this first kind of hit my radar back in like the early or mid 2000s with Prison Break. I remember Prison Break came out, and that was actually the first season of that was actually pretty innovative and good, but then it just descended into this whole new genre or updated genre that we've got now.
Yeah, I think my whole take on the contemporary women in prison subgenre. I mean, again, as you say, it's very different from what it was in the films of the 60s, 70s, even 80s, where it was more exploitation. Now it's more, I think what the intent is to kind of flatten everyone, flatten the culture. So we're essentially putting women into a situation that when most people think about prison and prison inmates, they think about men. So they're inserting the same dynamics and the same situations into these prison shows that I think we would expect to see in shows of the same genre that were focused on your standard men's prison. I think the intention is to collapse our societal expectations around gender, to completely destroy the, let's say, gender preconceptions, and just create this understanding of the new, well, really the new Soviet man. It's this sort of flat, amorphous human blob that we all face problems the same way. We all have the same social dynamics. That's how I see it. But it is strange to think that there would be that many shows of this genre out there now, kind of on air at the same time. I think the other aspect of it too is normalizing dysfunctional behavior, because if we have a situation where dysfunctional behavior is sexy, it's normal, it's the done thing, it's kind of hip, it's kind of cool, then we're contributing to this dystopian view of where we are now. Society's breaking down, and it becomes kind of a reverse hierarchy, where instead of clawing your way up, if clawing your way up is seen as impossible, well, then the best thing to do is claw your way down. It's that race to the bottom. So I would say, yeah, it's a flattening of norms and expectations, while at the same time creating an expectation of, well, we may as well race to be the king below rather than the king above, or I guess queen in the context of this conversation.
So
Right.
on that point, like I have watched probably too much of Orange is the New Black as well as Wentworth. Admittedly, not a good use of my time, but what it really comes down to, from my perspective, is that they have a man to blame at the top. Like, there is a man to blame for them being in prison. And so, like, it's this sort of, we have to become the sort of the dominant alpha people in this prison, because we're in this prison because something bad happened. A man did something bad to me, and then I did something bad to people. And therefore, I mean, that's really kind of like the story for almost all these girls on these TV shows. It really leads back to the man. And so the women want to be like, oh, I'm a strong woman. You know, I got my jail yard full of people, and I can be the king of this situation. So it kind of like constructs this idea for people that, are naive or just watching television and not even realizing what they're witnessing. But it really does construct this idea that the man is really bad. The man is bad. And these are strong women, and they're showing their strength by what they can do in the prison yard or in the cafeteria or such.
Right. Like there's so much badassery going on with the women and their various situations in there. But you're right, and same with like the man being the reason they're in there quite often, and also the man being the one that is brutalizing them inside of the system. So it like normalizes the whole like systemic race to the bottom, I guess, like you just hit a certain bar and your Orange is the New Black, and now you're on your way to be the to reign in hell, I guess. Yeah, it's really weird to see that go on, but it does normalize a lot of stuff. It normalizes a whole hell of a lot of stuff. It also normalizes very masculine style violence, hands, feet, knives, pokies, poisons, that kind of violence on violence that, you know, I don't know. Was that in the exploitation films? I'm sure it was, but it was more like hair pulling and stuff like that. And this is like, we're talking hardcore vendettas, we're talking murder, we're talking drug smuggling, and all kind of stuff. So anyways, I don't know how we got on women in prison. Oh, well, because we're talking about this doctor who belongs in a prison. My goodness. Is that not attempted murder? I mean, a $30,000 bond. I'm a little surprised, yet I'm not. I guess we're just not prosecuting. Must be a Soros DA in that town, so they made it nice and easy for her to get out.
I was quite surprised that it wasn't 33.
Yeah, really. No kidding. Yeah, we wouldn't be surprised at all if it was. Surprised that it's not. So yeah, I don't know. The stories like this also, I don't know what comes first, the chicken or the egg, the idea to do this, or the like every few years seeing a story like this that kind of imprints it in psychotic people. I don't know.
I feel like the Drano, though, like that is something that was out of old movies or rumors from like the 80s.
Wasn't there like a Stephen King story that had some like a slow poisoning in it or something like that? I mean, I know I've seen this.
Something like, yeah, Stephen King, and there was also like an antifreeze rumor back in the day, like just give them a little antifreeze, they won't taste it, or but those are old. So it's kind of like classic.
Classic.
It's like
Classic
the thing
murder.
we were talking about with the
Yeah.
prison life. It's been sensationalized and made to look sexy to poison your cheating husband or something like that. You know what I mean? Like this is like, I mean, I get so worried and concerned about generations who are pretty much exclusively raised by television, and television and film for the most part is actually, especially in the last couple decades or so, that's a hell of a terrible parent to raise you. There's no morals or ethics. What are you learning? It's what this lady's learning. Like, most people have like some sort of moral grounding or filter in their head that's going to say, like, whatever the reason is, she's mad at her husband, and she's like, well, I could divorce him, we could have counseling, or I could just kill the bastard. No, like, there wasn't a choice. She just skipped right to like, the natural thing here. Well, I mean, shit sucks with Phil, so, I guess I gotta kill him. Who does that? What does that say about our society and what's going on? I think things we're pretty fucked.
No.
Say it.
Yeah, well, certainly, if I would argue, and I wouldn't be the only person to argue this, we are living in a society right now where we don't hold women accountable for anything, and so I think if she's operating in the mindset of, well, I can do whatever I want, I can exercise my penchant for vengeance, and everyone will see me as the poor helpless victim who couldn't defend herself, no matter how heinous the crime, she's gonna walk. I mean, I remember even when Lorraine Bobbitt did her infamous thing with the garbage disposal, people were still making excuses for her as this victim. Oh, she barely spoke any English. She was dominated by her husband. Of course, she would resort to something like this, even though what she did was absolutely heinous. So I think we do live in a time where people will bend over backwards to make excuses for people that they see as perpetual, eternal victims. So that could have been in the calculus of her thinking in this situation.
Yeah, for sure.
Sorry, go ahead, Hesher.
No, you go ahead, Spore. Your thoughts.
Oh yeah, I totally agree with you, and I mean, Hesher and I know a number of men that have been in abusive relationships with women that just would never, they would never say anything, and we also know women, unfortunately, that would take advantage of that situation, knowing that the court systems are going to be on their side no matter what. And so, I mean, there is a possibility that she's just like, yeah, I can slowly poison my husband and I'm just never going to get anything for it. And that's scary, right?
Yeah.
But it's true.
And the other thing here, like with regards to the reporting, the news on this, we're not going to get a motive. We're not going to get the context. I'm willing to bet. I mean, without like an investigative journalist chasing it down, doing a public records request, following the case. I mean, maybe I'll eat my words on this. Maybe it'll be a continuing thread in the media. Even if it is, we'll probably miss it. It'll be another just crying in the rain sort of thing. But where is that context? Why did she do that? What's with the relationship? What's with the pharmacological effects these people might be under? What is on the insert of anything that's in her medicine cabinet? Are side effects on any of the inserts to include homicidal or suicidal thoughts? There are plenty of things in people's medicine cabinets that have that written on the insert. So there could be something like that. There's so much context that we could glean from the story, but this is going to end up just like something from the Daily Shooter anomaly, in the sense that we're not going to get the context we need to properly process what happened. We're just going to get narrative here. We're going to get outrage. We're going to get clickbait. And they can't even give us the context. I would argue they can't even give us the context in stories like this, because it doesn't fit the overarching narrative. The overarching narrative right now, there's lots of them, but one of them is that black scary rifles are bad. It's the black scary rifle. Well, okay. Maybe he had a similar motive as this person. Maybe there's a relatable motive to someone who's killing their husband with Drano and somebody who would go do something else heinous with a black scary rifle. You know what I mean? So it's like, we just never hear about the mental state and the pharmacology and the situational state that leads people to do violence against other people. And one of the reasons I argue is because if we did that, if we took the time to actually give a fuck about people and what makes them do stuff, and how to try to fix that, or try to help mitigate that, or help those people before they hurt other people or themselves, well, then we wouldn't be able to do stupid 21st century postmodern bullshit thinking like blaming the object, right? Because we have to blame the scary black rifle in this case, but we don't want to blame Drano. We don't want to blame forks for making people fat. We don't want to sue Ford for having the airbag not work and hurting people. We can't do that. You know, it's always only the product or the tool when it's firearms, and everything else, oh, shit just happens. You know, shit just happens.
Right. It's what we've often said about there's a Hegelian dialectic at play. I've always maintained that there's two Hegelian dialectics operating simultaneously. We have the problem reaction solution that we often talk about, but also the one that is more commonly taught is thesis, antithesis, synthesis. So the synthesis being the tool is the problem, and if people didn't have access to this tool, then we could solve the problem. So that speaks to exactly what you're talking about right there, Hesher. And yeah, there's a double standard when it comes to something as heinous as this and the big black scary rifle that we are being admonished for having and being convinced, at least they're attempting to convince us, that no one should have. I also just want to issue a correction and retraction. I did mix up my situation. There was no garbage disposal involved in the Bobbitt case. I misremembered that. But the point is the same. She did something absolutely horrific and yet was still venerated to the status of hapless victim. And so I think that's the real point here.
Yeah, and for any of you millennials out there that don't know the Bobbitt story, she cut his wiener off. All right, we'll just leave it at that. She cut his wiener off and I think she threw it out the window of
road.
She threw it out the window of a moving car, right, Spore?
Yeah. And then I think Sunbell mentioned this, and I hadn't remembered this, but I believe they used his toe to replace the wiener part. And then
right.
they may have done, from my memory, I believe he was later on in some sort of weird porn with his toe wiener.
I hate to laugh, but it's been long enough. It's been long enough. This one's
that was
enough,
like the early 90s, right? That was a long time ago.
You are 100% correct, Spore. And it was known for like it got like so many views. Like normal people who wouldn't be caught dead watching adult films ran out and bought that or rented it or watched it, apparently.
Yeah.
It broke some sort of record, I suppose.
I think it was viral before the internet.
Yes, exactly. That's what I was going to say. And when things started to be described as these huge events that go crazy and are called viral, I always think of the John Wayne Bobbitt thing as that example. So I think that's probably the first case of something going viral. And wow, what an amazing, bizarre story. But I think that kind of planted the seeds for the clown world that we're in now, right? But wow, wild stuff. But
yeah.
I think he made a lot of money too. That was the other thing. I think he made a crap load of money doing it.
I think he still is. I think his name's, I mean, if we did I haven't researched him in years, but I bet he's still out there if he's still around, and he's probably still making money off that.
I mean, of course, since then, way more people have seen like the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard thing. So, you know.
Yeah. Oranges, apples.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember he got a lot of airtime on Howard Stern too. Howard Stern, and back in the Whack Pack days, used to make a lot of airtime out of oddities like that. You
know, right. I do think he was like one of those innovators, like one of the first people that like came out there and like had like a niche that got really famous for porn.
Right.
Nick, not niche.
Oh,
yeah. Yeah, got nicked big time.
Oh God, good one.
All right. Let's get out of this pit. Okay, so here's the next one. What's going on with this? So out of the Liberty Daily here. This is pretty much everywhere though. There is an actual job posting, so everybody's talking about the plans to add 87,000 IRS agents. As they say in the article here, they say they are not militarizing the Internal Revenue Service, but they kind of are. Recent job posting by the Biden-Harris regime should cause massive concern to those of us who know the IRS is coming after law-abiding middle-class Americans. So yeah, there's a stipulation in the new Senate reconciliation bill, $80 billion $80 billion package there, the reconciliation bill, when that passes this weekend. So they're buying more guns and they're buying more ammo, and 87,000 IRS agents will be hired with our taxpayer dollars there. So isn't that interesting? Marjorie Taylor Greene has been tweeting out against it, and there's been a lot of uproar over this one going on here. And actually, let me show you guys this too before I turn it back over to you guys. Here's a screenshot of the position. I do not know if this was all 87,000 positions. Hopefully, there were more varied than this one position, but I don't know. Major duties: adhere to the highest standards of conduct. Blah blah blah. Listen to this one. Work a minimum of 50 hours per week, which may include irregular hours, and be on call 24/7, including holidays and weekends. Maintain a level of fitness necessary to effectively respond to life-threatening situations on the job. Carry a firearm and be willing to use deadly force if necessary, and be willing and able to participate in arrests, execution of search warrants, and other dangerous assignments. So that's what was on the job posting, right, Ruckus? And then something changed apparently. Did a little bit of walk back on that, if I recall. You sent me something during my show today from the National Review. What happened there? What do you think happened there?
Yes, sir. Well, I think it was just like a tweet. So, but yeah, no, they literally just this happens all the time. They get the pushback right away, and they're like, "Oops, okay," and they got to roll it back, you know. So I'm sure the job posting still exists, but they had to like kind of hide it more from the public. But it was a legit thing, and we know that their armed IRS agents are a real thing, because that by itself was something that would have been considered a conspiracy theory, 10 years or so ago, if it were not for, whistleblowers. One famous one by the name of Joe Bannister comes to mind in particular. People can Google that name and learn all about it. So it's not beyond the realms of possibility. So there's nothing conspiratorial or crazy or fake news about IRS having armed agents that are willing to use deadly force. However, I don't think that all 87,000 of these positions were for armed agents. However, that would not necessarily be out of the realm of possibilities, considering how many folks who are normally employed in other positions that involve being armed are suddenly without a job because they decided to leave because their bosses were requiring that they get jabbed, like police, military, etc. Just saying. So they might be looking for something to do. From what I hear, people are desperate for work. And look, the IRS is hiring. It's kind of like the perfect solution to some sort of problem. I don't know, but
Yeah, isn't that interesting? Also, of course, we had all those weird checks going out to everybody over the last 2 years, the government issuing checks to people doing whatever with those checks. There was that one story we covered on this show about a guy who got issued an enormous check accidentally, and he went out and he bought a Ferrari or something like that. So they're not even good at writing checks. A lot of people didn't get them. A lot of people got too much. Mostly it went to crony capitalism, business loans, and stuff like that. Very small percentage of that. What was that? $7 trillion or something they printed during COVID actually came to us as hush money, I think.
you're not whistling Dixie about that, Hesher. I will attest right here. I swear I'll put my hand on the Bible, because one of the companies I do work with, they got a number of those lucrative government loans and whatnot that were, they still don't even have to pay it back yet, but it's coming up soon. And the thing is, and I explained to the dude who owns the company, I said, look at all of the fine print that's in here, and it says this is to be used specifically for this, this, and this, and you have to be audited. It already said right there that you're subject to an audit. And that would be true of all of these businesses that accepted these business loans. And to your point about that story, there was a number of incidents where there were people who actually got the money legitly, I reported one on my show, the Daily Ruckus. There, I keep pointing in the wrong direction, about a dude who took his money in Florida and he bought 2 Lamborghinis with it instead of the money being used to help pay his employees. So there was a gross misuse of those allocation of funds. And I think it's about time now for those people to start paying up. And I think some of these people who've owned their businesses for 20 years or so, if they get a knock on the door by the government saying that they got to close shop because they have back due taxes, I think they'd be willing to put up a fight. Thus, the armed agents. Very good point.
Yep. And they're on to also so we've got that going on. So we've got the just all the weirdness of the money, the loans, everything that's gone on in the last couple of years, all the talk of debt forgiveness. So there's a lot of reasons why they might need that many employees. Although, I got to say, I would much rather see them take what's this package again? We've done this math before where you take some of these enormous packages and you kind of break them up and say, well, how many restaurants failed during COVID? How many businesses shut down? And if we took $100,000 and gave it to each one of those places to restart, how much would that cost? It always ends up being much less than any of these insane bills that they pass. These $80 billion. You got to be kidding me. But the IRS does that. I looked into this because no one likes the idea of an armed IRS. No one likes the idea. And let's not forget that they also bought, how much was it? I think it was 700,000 rounds of ammunition earlier this year. I think we covered that on the show too. And it's like, why are these agencies arming up? Well, there actually is an IRS criminal investigation unit. You know what I mean? And they do the sort of law enforcement that does put them in dangerous situations. And if this agency was functioning above board and not being used politically, there would be an argument to have those armed agents be able to work with other armed agents if they do have to do search warrants and stuff like that. But this, so I got to wonder, like, how many of these job positions are for armed agents? You know what I'm saying? But we're splitting hairs here, everybody. We're splitting hairs because we live in an era where almost every 3-letter agency should probably just be shut the fuck down. Let's be honest with ourselves here. We can talk about if things were above board and this and that, but the IRS is no different than a lot of the other 3-letter agencies. I'm sure there's plenty of normal business flow going on there that we wouldn't have a problem with. But then when you look at the overall situation, it's bad. It's really bad. And it supports itself and not the American people, in my estimation. I don't know. Wandering Wolf, what do you think, man?
Yeah, this is a really interesting one, isn't it? I mean, when I first saw the headline, it was early this morning, and I looked at it, and I had a bit of a chuckle to myself because I thought, well, I mean, excusing the obvious hypocrisy of all this, I would hate to accuse the Biden administration of being competent, but I said, okay, so what dialectic are they trying to set up? What could possibly be telegraphed by this, what looked like an accidental slip of a job posting that didn't maybe pass muster before it went out to the broader public, and it got picked up by news outlets and reported on. I mean, it just seems to me that they're trying to potentially, one of the ancillary benefits of this might be that they're trying to set up a situation where there could be an armed confrontation between one of these new 87,000 IRS agents and someone in the general public. No one can predict who that might be yet, who is pushing back against government overreach. They can frame that any way they'd like. They're not giving us any context. So I think it sets up a certain degree of expectation in the general public that they will be able to capitalize on when an inevitable clash or confrontation occurs. And the second thought that I had was I was thinking about, over the last 2 years, all of the people who were given gross power extraordinary power to tell other people what to do in restaurants, in bars, in shops, on transit, everywhere. How many of those people who've lost their jobs because of the current economic conditions are going to apply for these IRS positions, be hired on with the exact same psychological profile of, hey, I suddenly have power now? How many of those people are going to be walking a beat and trying to collect on back taxes? It just sets up so many situations that could be exploited for various ends, and that was the first thing that kind of popped into my mind. Although, of course, armed IRS agents, that's certainly not unprecedented. But and how many of these 87,000 are going to be armed positions? No one knows as yet. That's fair enough. But I just think that the opportunities here for narrative exploitation are a bit too lush, in my opinion.
Yeah, and who the hell trains 87,000 IRS agents? How quickly does that happen? What does the onboarding process look like? I mean, we're operating in numbers here that are like barely even conceivable to me, starting with $80 billion. What exactly is our government doing with $80 billion this time? It's like I can't even keep up with what they're doing with the billions of dollars that are allegedly going to Ukraine. And of course, we learned recently that only they're estimating that only 30% of the weapons that we're sending to the Ukraine are actually landing on for use with quote unquote frontline soldiers. So 70% of the stuff we're sending out there is going to meh, meh. We don't know. We don't know. So maybe the IRS should get 87,000 new agents to try to audit all the money that the government is sending to shady businesses in the name of COVID, and that the government is sending to shady governments in the name of democracy. Shady governments. There would be a nice set of auditing that could be done by the IRS. Hey, IRS, are you out there? Maybe, there's a thought, just a thought you guys could do that. Maybe
Hesher,
those
that
guys
kind of auditing would require way more than 87,000 agents, my friend.
Well, all right. Well, that's okay. We got billions and trillions of dollars we can print for important stuff like raiding ex-presidents' houses and uh, faking pandemic responses and stuff like that. So, we'll just print more, man. We got it. We got it. We can just print more. So, IRS agents, do that. Do that. Leave parents alone that want to go to school council meetings and school board meetings and say what they want to have happen in their child's lives. Uh, Maybe leave those people alone and see if you can find out what happened to 70% of our taxpayer dollar military industrial complex gear that gets flown over there somewhere in the vicinity of Ukraine and dropped off, and then only 30% of it goes to its stated purpose. By the way, the stated purpose, I don't think we voted on. I don't think using proxy armies is supposed to be a thing. So it's not even an elephant in the room anymore, you guys. It's just a thing we do and we expect. Yeah, we set up proxy armies, we set up color revolutions, we do all this stuff. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be huge. It's gonna be huge. All right. Well, you know what? I got 5 minutes left on one of these decks here, Corey. What do you say? You got anything you want to throw out there before we go to intermission here? We're gonna take a prompt intermission here in a moment. But Corey, over to you, man.
Man, I say let's just go ahead and wipe those decks.
All right, let's do it. I see Ruckus is ready for a smoke break. So that's what we're gonna do, everybody. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take an intermission over here in the boiler room. I'm gonna close out this YouTube broadcast, and when we come back, we're gonna be on the Rockfin channel exclusively on video. So Denver, what's going on? Denver, see you over there on the Rockfin. I see Johnny, what's going on? Denver, I used one of those links that you sent me last week on the show on my TNT show. So thank you for that. I gave you a shout out over there. Everybody be sure and go to tntradio.live. Check us out over there. We got some good team up action happening with TNT and us here at Alternate Current Radio. We're gonna so yeah, like I was saying, anyways, good to see you, Denver. And everybody out there, thanks for being with us on the YouTube too. If you are with us on the YouTube, you'll want to move over to our Rockfin channel. We're gonna take 5, we're gonna take 10. I don't know, we're pretty casual about it, but we'll drop a link to the Rockfin channel in the YouTube chat. What's up, Bubscat? What's going on, Elizabeth? Great to see everybody in the chats. Everyone over at the Discord too. Everyone out there on the video streaming chats, if you want to join us in our Discord, go to our website, go to alternatecurrentradio.com. Actually, here, I'll just show you because I have that ability. All right, check it out. Go to alternatecurrentradio.com, and then up here in our hamburger menu, boom, you'll see on the right side, we've got our Discord server right there. You'll get a link to our Discord right over here, and all our podcasts available right there. All that good stuff. People were digging Spore's shirt. She's got the Social Rejects Club shirt. So if you click on shop and store, it'll take you over here to our store. So you can get boiler room merch, boiler room gear. You get ladies t-shirts. You get the boiler room smoking boy. That's one of our most popular ones. The mugs. We got the Social Rejects Club gear. We even got a Social Reject face mask if you're so inclined. When did we get a pillow? We have a pillow. That's dope. I need one of those. Yeah, so we got stuff over there. And Ruckus also, you can find links to Ruckus's gear if you go to these places also. Just go to podcasts, Daily Ruckus. Boom. Daily Ruckus right there. His appearances on Joseph Arthur's show at TNT. All things Ruckus over here. That's how it works. You got a merchandise link right there. Bam. All right. That's what we're doing, everybody. So there you go. Answer some questions, do a little website familiarity with you over here in the boiler room. We're going to end this broadcast. So we'll see you over on Rockfin. If you're out there listening to the live audio stream, don't go anywhere. You can just hang right there where you are.